just something that I wanted to share on times of the year that you might have more success than other times of the year that I have noticed myself. The reason why I'm bringing this up is there's very few coaches out there that actually approach or can say that they've approached every single day in the calendar year. I can categorically tell you that there is not one day in the calendar year that I have not gone out and done game. And there's been some calendar years where I've gamed almost every single day, unless I was sick or something happened. But generally, I'd be approaching every single day. And I've noticed something, depending on the times of the years, which times of the years I tend to have the most success. And I thought that I'll bring that to everyone's attention. But before we kick it off, I'm Dave, and this channel is dedicated to giving you no BS, novel dating advice for the modern man. Second link in the description is my 3-part video series and a free PDF as well. There's a bonus PDF with that as well. Just enter your email address and I'll get that out to you straight away. So, times of the year where you might have more success than others. And from my experience, so for instance, when you're thinking about guys that get into game and just say they're doing day game, I guess any part of the world anybody can do night game. Even in the snow, there should still be nightclubs open where you can get in there and hit the nightclubs. But day game and nightclubs, and having a mixture of that, I'm fortunate enough to be in a country where I can do that pretty much every single day, the entire calendar year. There's no time off. Whereas in countries, or even Europe, just Europe in general, you could say 6 to 9 months, depending on the country, whether it's snowing or just too cold. You can't really do any day game at all in most of those countries. Canada as well is, Canada through to Russia, through to pretty much all of Europe, especially Britain as well. It's all just too cold for 6 months of the year, so there's times where they just can't do anything unless it is hitting the nightclubs. That's why I'm a little bit it's a little bit skeptical when there's a lot of day gamers that come from those areas. And I guess it might just be a marketing ploy because a lot of the guys can't game for most of the year. And there's only probably 3 months or so that they can game. And so when they go out to game, they get a lot more clients, so therefore they have more money for their marketing. Perhaps that might be the reason why it works for them. But from my experience, someone who is capable of day gaming every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I'm doubling their experience every year. And there's certain times of the year that I've noticed that it seems to be better. And so let's just start with, say, you're going into summer, the most obvious one, say spring. It's starting to warm up a little bit. I've noticed that around that period where, say, universities are starting to end, they're starting to go on holidays, around that period, sure, there's a lot of parties on. People start drinking, they start partying more, there's a lot more debauchery, people are out hitting the clubs a little bit more. But I have noticed that it isn't necessarily that successful around that period. The reason is because a lot of them are like work functions or university functions, or they're just hitting nightclubs, and it's just pretty much a more supercharged continuation of the same through winter. I've noticed that just on the lead up, when you're getting to around the period leading up to New Year's Eve, that there is a period between, say, early December through to, I would say the best day of the year would be Christmas Eve. I have noticed that Christmas Eve is by far one of the best nights of the year to go out, and that week leading up to Christmas Eve is the best week to go day game. And Christmas Eve is the best night of the year, in my opinion, to go out night gaming. The reason is because on Christmas Eve, all of the families, all of the kids, all of the married girls, all of the girls that are in a relationship, all of the girls that they're with their family, they're with their boyfriend, they're with their husband, they're with somebody on Christmas Eve. It's a family night. It's a really important family night. So Christmas Eve, there's less people out. But almost every girl out there, unless she's with her boyfriend or husband, which is very rare, because why would they go out when Christmas Eve is a time of the year to go out to stay at home and have like a dinner with the family, right? I have noticed that that is by far the best day and night to go out and do cold approach, because the girls are single, they don't have a boyfriend or husband, and they're, to some extent, they feel a little bit left out of society. And that is awesome because when you meet them, they're more likely to give you a better reaction. I myself have a 100% strike rate pulling on Christmas Eve every single year, 100% strike rate. And then it's downhill through to New Year's Eve, because people continue to drink. And New Year's Eve is when everyone gets out and they become rowdy, and it can become a little bit violent on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is not necessarily the best time to be going out as far as I'm concerned. Then after New Year's Eve, there's a couple days there where everyone's hungover, and you have a lot of, say, that week after New Year's Eve is generally a family week. It's a week where they meet up with family and hang out. It goes back into the family period. And there's about 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the year, January, where I've noticed that if a girl's out shopping, or like you happen to meet some girls, you're more likely to have success during that period, because a lot of the troublemaking men, a lot of the drunk men, a lot of the high status men are still hungover pretty much for the next week. They've partied themselves to the point where they're sick, and a lot of the best girls are hanging around the 2 weeks after New Year's Eve. It is a gold, and it's an absolute gold mine from my experience to go out and meet girls 2 weeks after New Year's Eve. The first week of January is usually leading into the second week, sometimes some of the two best weeks of the year. Then we move a bit further forward, and then there's Valentine's Day. I've noticed that Valentine's Day is fool's gold. You would think, oh, okay, Valentine's Day, there's going to be a lot of girls that want to find a boyfriend. From my experience, no. The lead up to Valentine's Day is the total opposite. It's as if women don't really care about love during that period. They're not looking for a boyfriend for Valentine's Day. They literally don't care to some extent. You can go spam approach to your heart's content the week leading up to Valentine's Day, and you're just wasting your time, in my opinion. Valentine's Day is and the lead up to it, the week leading up to it, is pure rejection from my experience. It is the opposite to what you would think. It is, you just get destroyed out there, and it's as if the women aren't really that keen on finding a boyfriend for Valentine's Day. They don't really care to some extent. Then we get up to a period around, say, I've noticed going into, say, winter, there is this period in the southern hemisphere, but I guess in the northern hemisphere, just that period going into winter, the lead up where summer's over, it's starting to cool down, things are starting to cool down, and you can tell that there's the air smells a little bit different. There's less pollen in the air. There's a little bit more of a chill in the air, and you can feel that you're going into winter, but it's not quite there yet. It's still warm enough that it feels okay. It almost feels like it's just a bit cooler than what it has been over the last couple of months. The lead up to, say, I'd say the beginning of autumn, maybe, depending on what part of the world you're in, I have noticed that that is a gold mine too. As soon as that, it's as if there is a shift in the air. The air starts smelling a little bit different, a little bit more crisp. It's getting a little bit colder, but it's not cold that you actually feel cold. You just know that the sun's in a little bit of a different position when it sets. You know that it's starting to get a bit cooler now, and we're going into winter. You're starting to think, okay, the next 6 months are going to be cold. Okay, that period is a goldmine from my experience as well. I've noticed that it's as if when you feel that, every other girl in your city feels that as well, and they're down. They're keen to go out and meet guys, and that's when you'll notice that there's a lot of girls out in the city roaming around, just like hoping that a guy speaks to them. That's the perfect moment from my experience, where you will notice that there's girls that live maybe an hour outside of the city, and they go into the city just hoping to meet a guy, and you can spot them. They're walking as if they're a little bit, they got nothing else to do. They're checking out guys. They're walking around by themselves. They're not out to really meet any friends or anything. They're literally hoping that someone approaches them. And that's a period where I tend to have a lot of success as well. The next part is the dead of winter, where it is absolutely freezing. The absolute coldest part, and I'd say it wouldn't necessarily matter from my experience. I don't think it would matter, but I guess it depends on what part of the world you're in. From my experience in a country where even the coolest parts of the year, it's not that bad. I guess if it's snowing, then it's game over for you. I'm not sure what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to, like, the shopping centers or the malls or something like that. But when it's right in the center of winter, it's the coldest of the coldest months, or that coldest month. I have noticed that there is a period there where it's like the dead of winter. There's nothing going on. It's probably not even, girls don't really want to go to the clubs. It's just too cold. I've noticed that then there's a lot of girls that are just, they kind of feel a bit lonely, and it's like there's another little sweet spot I've noticed right in the middle of the dead of winter, where you will have a little bit more success. These are kind of the periods where I have noticed that seasonally that there are more success, and sometimes there's not so much success. I feel that then after winter going into spring, spring seems like a bit of a fool's gold to me as well. I've noticed myself that in spring there is in spring it's a little bit less success than other parts of the year. You would think that the old saying that spring's when the birds and the bees and they all start sleeping with each other and finding a partner and going out and things like that. From my experience, cold approach doesn't necessarily work as effective as these other times of the year that I just mentioned to you guys. On top of that, you have to take into account that I'm also a little bit more positive than the average person. I'm looking for opportunities everywhere, so I feel that I can have a lot of success any time of the year, and but I have noticed specifically these times of the years are somewhat a little bit more successful than the average, and they're awesome times of the year, I think. And take advantage of those times of the year as much as you possibly can. Go out and make sure you take a lot more action during those periods. But also, I'm always positive. I always think that there's a way. When there's a will, there's a way. There's a way that I'm going to meet a girl anyway, anyhow, anywhere. But yeah, hopefully that's been helpful for you guys. Keep in mind, I've got my 3-part video series and the bonus PDF in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video.